Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast. This is where you go to learn how to use pure motive service to create higher value to grow your results. And now, here is your host, America's service sales coach, Joe Crisara.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast, and my name is Joe Crisara, America's service coach. And we have with us a very special guest. We have Emily Waskovic from Yelp. Very honored to have you here, Emily. Welcome to the show. I really appreciate you being on our podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Joe. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you.
Emily, why don't you tell people a little bit about what you do and just give us a little bit about your background so people understand what your role is at Yelp. Most people may not realize that they have somebody like you who actually helps develop businesses. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I joined Yelp just over 10 years ago. When I originally started, I was on our sales team. So like many of the employees at the company, I would call local businesses and talk to them about Yelp and see if they needed any of our paid products to get advertising. After about a year and a half of doing that, I had a really unique opportunity to join our business outreach team. And at that time, we were going to conferences, trade shows, conventions, and we were educating business owners all about the free tools to make the most of Yelp. You know, a lot of people think of Yelp as a place where they find restaurants. I always say you eat 3 times a day, you maybe need a plumber or a hairstylist ever so often. And so our goal was to get to those other industries, teach them how to use Yelp and how to leverage it, not only with setting up their free page and adding photos and information, but also managing their online reviews on Yelp and across all platforms. So I've been very fortunate to connect with hundreds of businesses in all types of industries and really help them bring everything that they do in person with their clients to online and really allow them to spread that message digitally.
Well, you know, obviously, when you go from what you were doing to helping businesses directly, it can be a thankless job. So I want to say thank you for the effort you make to help small businesses. 'Cause a lot of people think people just some businesses just take your money and they don't give back at all. But obviously, you're putting effort into changing that myth and creating a connection with contractors to show them care, respect, and support. Does that sound right?
Yeah. And, another thing that we've done in the past few years is launched our podcast, Behind the Review, which allows us to highlight business owners and really feature all the knowledge and expertise that they have as entrepreneurs. And I think at Yelp, we really want to try to shine a light on great businesses. And a lot of those businesses have incredible stories, not only how they started, but how they're making memorable experiences every day with their clients. And so we love shining a light on that and also giving tips and tricks that are really actionable across lots of different platforms. Because there's so much that business owners can do that's free. And a lot of it is just about getting them the education and resources to make it happen.
Well, is there anything that you've seen since you've been doing this job? How long have you been working with the businesses now?
I've been at Yelp for 10 years total, and I've been doing the small business expert role for about 8 of those years.
So in those 8 years, what have you learned that has inspired you to, obviously I could just tell by your tone that you love this job, just like I love my job too. What are some of the things that make you love this job or inspire you to fall in love with working with those small businesses like that?
Yeah, I think small businesses in general always have really incredible stories. With a lot of my service providers, it's normally a need in the market that they see, whether it's better service or better communication or just a better experience that they want to create. And so I love helping them take that knowledge and expertise that they have in their industry and help fill in some of the gaps that they might not be experts in. Things like managing your books or dealing with social media or responding to customer inquiries. Those are all different areas that sometimes an entrepreneur isn't the best at, but they're so passionate about what they do and they're normally so skilled in their trade. And I love helping them realize by leaning into those things and really just telling people more about themselves, they have a huge opportunity to really explode and connect with customers in a positive way. And so I feel like the thing that's consistent with all the business owners I work with is their passion, their energy, their fuel for why they started their business. And I love to just give them some of the tactics to make their business run more smoothly and be able to service more customers in general.
Well, Yelp has a big imprint on the service business and has left a huge imprint on the way customers interact with businesses. Uh, Tell us about, in particular, how has Yelp changed the way service businesses operate, and how it's related to the operation of a business now, would you say?
So I think service businesses have always been built on trust and communication, right? A lot of times you're providing a service that maybe the client or customer isn't knowledgeable about or aware of on their own. And so it's really important that those home pros and service providers really build up that expertise that they have and create trust with the clients so that they can support them. And with Yelp in general, all of those things you're doing in person, like connecting with the client, setting expectations through good communication, showing up on time, that can all get represented and reflected online. And I think for home pros in general, sometimes it can be hard to market yourself. And so having a place where customers share their great experiences allows you to amplify what they said about you as marketing materials. And the other thing about Yelp that's really unique is it gives them the opportunity to continue that dialogue with their client beyond just the appointment or the job. So, back 20 plus years ago, before we had Yelp, you might only hear if a customer was happy or maybe upset if they reached out to you and followed back up. And now clients can share their great experiences, and that can then be spread on your behalf without you having to do the work of telling potential customers about who you are and what a great service provider you are. The last thing I'd say about reviews, and it's quite a misconception, but something that I love educating about, is this understanding that sometimes business owners are afraid people just go online to complain. And they think when it comes to online review sites, it's going to be more negative than positive. But on Yelp, we have more 5-star reviews than 1, 2, and 3-star reviews combined. So overwhelmingly, consumers want to share those places that they love. And even if you do get a critical review, I think actually hearing that and being able to action on it is better than the days before review sites when maybe you wouldn't have heard from that customer at all. They just would have told family and friends and other people not to work with your business. So Yelp and online review sites give you a chance to hear what customers are saying and to show up in that forum and respond in a way to reflect your customer service practices.
Well, that's one of my superpowers is, turning the bad review into an opportunity to communicate the foundational, value system of your company and to share what your company believes in. In a way, you're giving yourself a chance to get a commercial about how we operate, and I've had so many contractors that I have helped to write a response to, and I've heard them say, "I've got, like, 4 calls this week because of that response I gave." Like, they weren't even part of the bad review. They were, saying, "The way you responded to it told me that this is the kind of company I wanna deal with," right? So I think the misconception is that only the good reviews are something that is, "That's all I wanna get," and truthfully, I always say, if there's too many good reviews, then how could that be real? Like, if a restaurant has 11,000 reviews and none of them are bad, it's like, dude, it's impossible. Like, it feels filtered in a way. Does that make sense when there's no bad reviews? Tell me a little bit about that. Tell me about that, the value of a bad review. Tell me about, not the value of it, but tell me about the value of both good and bad and the balance there. Tell me about that.
Totally. I want to start with just a little information for people who might not know. On Yelp, we have a review recommendation software. And so that works and is constantly evolving, honestly, to evaluate reviews for trustworthiness and reliability. And it's always evolving and changing. So reviews can move from not recommended to recommended or vice versa. The most important thing for businesses to know is that it's against Yelp's terms of service and content guidelines to ask for reviews. So you want to avoid requesting Yelp reviews specifically. Now, other sites allow you to ask for reviews or might even encourage it. And so I always say just follow the rules of the platform. On Yelp, we want it to come naturally. And there's a lot of ways you can do that, right? Sharing your reviews is a great way to let customers know you want to hear their experience. And you can also point to your Yelp page, whether it's on your website, in follow-up emails, but you just want to make sure you're not directly asking for a Yelp review.
That's interesting. So you would be smarter, even though, you could say Google review would be a competitor of yours or whatnot, or Facebook review. You would favor the fact that you gave them a chance to look at all those platforms. Hey, pick your platform and give us a review if you feel you love the service. Would be a much better practice than just pushing them all to Yelp to try to jam all the Yelp reviews up there. So in a way, they could kind of pick up on that situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right, Joe. And honestly, the whole thing that you want to focus on is letting the user share their experience where they are active and frequent, right? So don't try to turn all of your customers into Yelpers. Let those customers that like Yelp or know about Yelp go there to share their experience. But you tell clients everywhere that you have an online presence and you let them go to the platform that they prefer. I think that's the best advice. But to your point about this opportunity between different types of reviews and kind of the benefits of both and the benefits of just reviews in general, we'll start with the critical because I think that's what people are nervous about, right? Or worried about. And you hit the nail right on the head. A critical review is an opportunity to reflect your customer service practices. And so it's a way to show up and respond. And you're not really necessarily responding to get into a back and forth dialogue with that customer. You might take the conversation offline or chat with them one to one. But when you're responding to a review publicly on Yelp, you're wanting to keep it short, professional, polite, because, like you mentioned, it's for everyone else that looks at that page. And if
Okay.
you think about it, it makes sense that if a business owner responds to critical and positive reviews, other consumers are probably more likely to not only share their experience, but if they do have a critical experience, they're probably going to come directly to you because they know that you're going to try to action on it and fix it and make amends. And so responding to not only the critical, but also the positive reviews is a great way to show that you're reading them and that you care. And it can be the converting factor for some people when they see that business owner engagement on the profile. They know that they're active, they know that they're responsive, and that can go a long way. The last thing I'll say about the positive reviews is sometimes business owners think, well, they're happy, so that's great. We can just let that one be. I think there's immense value in not only responding to those positive reviews, but doubling down on something that they mentioned. If there's a service offering that they brought up, or maybe something that you didn't provide for them that they could hire you for in the future, the review response is a great way to keep that high level, top of mind, but sprinkle in some of those keywords or phrases to describe the services that you want to be known for.
Well, that's great advice. I think that there's a lot of credibility on both things, like the sharing gratitude for identifying, I say, the customer avatar that you're looking for. Like, you could pay a marketing firm tens of thousands of dollars to try to do a focus group study on who your avatar customer is. But when you get those good reviews, you've got your avatar customer sitting right in front. So Yelp provides that actually for free. When you get a good review, you're actually you're actually getting consulting from Yelp in a way because you're finding the people who are happy with the type of service you provide, and now you got to say, "Well, who are these people? Where do they live? What profession?" You learn about customers. And you can start to market specifically to those people in a more niche fashion, so you get more good reviews at that point. And I always say that bad reviews are something we let happen I'm going to let that happen organically. I'm not gonna promote bad reviews, but good reviews would be something I would make sure that I am making an effort to put the idea behind giving us a review to those customers. I always tell people, wait until we complete the opportunity. I always say if you're having a customer concern with a customer, don't give them a review thing yet because the opportunity is not completed yet. I said, I say, if you have a customer concern, complete the whole thing and then give them the opportunity to give a review after you have done what you could do to make people happy. This way, the review would at least be something like, yeah, I thought the price was too high. And then they came out and showed me what they did. And then I realized that it was pretty fair, still a lot of money, but they did get the job done right. So I think that's a good review. To me, that's a great review that these people were more than I thought I was going to spend, but they did a job right. And once he showed me what he did, then I realized why it cost so much. That to me is the best review, even better than the full blown good one because you're that avatar is like looking like I was not sure if it was good value, but then I realized it was. Kind of like tells a little story in that review. So I'm an avid fan of this, and one of the things I notice, Emily, when people talk to me about, well, Yelp doesn't work for me, and I'm like, well, let me go take a look at your page, and they don't even have there's nothing set up. There's like I see some people who are successful at Yelp. They got videos, they got photographs, they got the team pictures, they got the value system is prominently displayed, and then the guy who says it doesn't work, he doesn't even have his logo set up or whatever. He's got some hand-drawn logo that the brand looks kind of like not good. Tell us about some best practices of just getting yourself in a position so before you start launching Yelp in a way that's full of flow. What can you tell contractors about some of the best practices there to make sure that you have a veneer of professionalism?
Absolutely. So the first thing is you want to either claim your business page or add your business to Yelp. And you'll do either of those things by going to business.yelp.com. It'll have you first search to see if your business page exists before you create a net new one. And any business has the ability to claim their page or add it for free, as well as completing the profile, adding unlimited photos, and you can even turn on a button called Request a Quote where customers can message you. All of those tools are free. And I think for home pros in particular, having their profile filled out and complete is really, really important. And the reason is when we think of a restaurant, for example, they're going to have consumers and customers uploading and adding a ton of information. They're seeing hundreds of people a day sometimes. And if you're doing pool remodeling or kitchen remodeling or you're a plumber, you're seeing far fewer clients. And so don't set that expectation for yourself to have hundreds of reviews. That's not what's most important. What is important is having at least 10 photos and captioning them, telling people what it is you focus on. And something I see with a lot of service providers on Yelp and just online in general is they want to be broad at first. They want to say that they can do all of the things, they service all of the areas because they want the job leads,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But I think that's a disservice to yourself, Joe.
No.
And especially on Yelp, you want to zone in on the things that you want to do. So let's be adding all of the keywords and phrases for the things we actually want more business in and want to be found for. Now, maybe you offer additional things, or if a certain client calls you, you would do a unique offering. Like maybe that's the case. But you don't need to put everything in the kitchen sink on your Yelp page or on all of your online listings. Try to keep it narrowed in to the things you want people to find you for and you want people to hire you for.
Just to kind of touch that point, you would say that's one thing I believe in, which is narrow your focus to dominate the niche that you dominate better. The 80-20 rule, right? You're putting the resources toward the thing that makes you more profitable rather than everything, which is sometimes gets us in trouble when we start diluting the service we do. That's really great advice.
That has been the Service Pro adjustment that I feel has the unlock for every service pro that I work with one-to-one is when you have that change, I think you at first feel like you're dealing with less leads or processing less leads, but you'll see that by not chasing all those various things, you'll have the time, bandwidth, and availability to take the jobs you want as they come through. So be mindful of that. The other thing I would say about Yelp when it comes to home pros is All of those free tools are amazing and very important, particularly that request to quote. That's really cool that you can turn that on. You just have to have email notifications turned on, and anyone can message you. I don't talk a ton about paid products because it's really not my job to try to sell people on Yelp. But I think for home pros in particular, it's really important to double down on the fact that we have regular cost per click advertising, like most online platforms, where they can choose a budget and get their business promoted above number one or on other pages when people search for what they do. But for home pros in particular, some of our profile enhancement features are really the thing that is going to take them over the top. So if you look at a business page and you see in the center something called verified license, that's a way businesses can authenticate that they are a legitimate insured business and consumers know that they're going to be reliable and trustworthy. They can also add things like portfolios, and that gives the business a chance to label a service offering and maybe even give images and descriptions of how the process would work. So if you do bathroom remodels and kitchen remodels and flooring, maybe you would have different portfolios to highlight those different services. And then the last paid feature that's unique to Home Pros is nearby jobs, which is a unique feature. You can go in and actually see job requests in your area, and you can see the price point that it would cost for you to bid on that job or take that job. And so for business owners that don't want this full ad campaign running, nearby jobs is a really great way to supplement and pay for specific leads individually versus having an entire program set up. And so I think it's great for home pros to fill out the free tools, make sure their page is full of that rich information of who they are and what they do. And if they do want to get more clients or maybe invest a budget, pay attention to those features that allow you to prominently display your service offerings. And for many businesses, that's what is the front and center on their page. And so reviews kind of become secondary, and not having tons of reviews isn't an issue because they know you're a good fit and they see your business information clearly on your page.
Right, right. I know, that all the review platforms discourage, like, filtering the review by only getting happy customers to give reviews. I think I do agree with that. However, I do teach something where I try to precondition people to be able to give a better review by having this teaching service providers, hey, Joe, is there anything I could do today to improve my business today? And because I've been accused that sometimes, like, Joe, you can't ask that question of a customer because you're filtering. I said, I don't think I am. I think I'm just helping the customer shape the words. So when they do the review, I can just say, hey, would you mind saying those exact same words when you went up there? Or if somebody says, Joe, I got to say something. Your service was really good. It was more than I wanted to spend, but I really liked you as a person. I liked the company and I believe in what you guys do, but it was more than I wanted to spend. And I would just say to the customer, that's great, Bill. Would you mind sharing exactly those words online? Would that be fair? Yeah, good. So I'll give you some review sites and you can go do that. Would you say that's compliant to what we're talking about there as opposed to, I'm not filtering the review, would you say?
Yeah, and when you were talking before about following up and asking them how things were, I was going to double down and say that's a great way to get ahead of any critical feedback online, right? Asking them when the job is complete, or for a lot of home pros, as it's in progress, right? If we're working on a job and maybe we need to check in and let the customer know what the next phase is or when we're going to return, those are great opportunities to say, is there anything I could have done to make the experience better today? Or is there anything that you thought we were going to cover that we didn't get to today? Opening the door with kind of an open-ended question allows them to bring any of those questions or concerns to you so you can talk it out human to human, And I think that's a very good practice for all businesses, but home pros in particular. And if you have a team or a staff of people that are out and servicing these customers on the company's behalf, build that into the training structure, right? Build that into the touch points and communication that they have with customers. What's the last thing they do before they leave the site? Maybe they're asking a set of 2 or 3 questions, and one of them is there anything we could have done to improve your service? I think that's great advice, and that's not weeding out at all. It's just making sure everyone is satisfied before you leave the job.
That's great. Thank you for, I got a sigh of relief because I wanna make sure I'm compliant with, what's going on, and, I mean, I could talk to you for hours, honestly. We could I might have to come in I might have to come and lock you down in this facility so I get all your information. I need, I'm learning so much, just listening to this interview, so thank you, for providing that information. I do notice that there's some companies that really lean into the social media, not just in the reviews they get, but to promoting the reviews they get. Tell us about that, because I see some companies that really like the first thing you see is a Yelp review on the front top of the website that that's leaning into it. You're putting your brand and the Yelp brand together and saying that. And there's other companies that you got to scroll down 15 pages to find the the reviews and things like that. Tell us about some of that. What's working? Do you have any statistics or things there that you can help contractors with on how this can work with the marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have an exact stat for you, but I think the thing that I notice between businesses that do use reviews to market and businesses that don't is this really unique way that they look at how they market themselves. And so the businesses that are leveraging reviews or sharing customer stories, they're thinking of that end user, right? They're thinking of their client and they're thinking, how can we connect with them? And a story or an example of a customer is such a great way to do that. And I think the other thing to remember with home pros is we're normally spending more money, right? We're doing some research before we decide who we want to go with. This isn't going to be a $10 taco at the end of my search, right? This is maybe going to be hundreds, if not thousands of dollars that I'm spending. And so reviews are so important because the consumer doesn't want to know how good you think you are. They want to know what other customers have really thought and how they've experienced the services or the offerings. And so as a home pro or a service provider, think of the fact that your best marketing material really is someone else's experience. And I also think that when it comes to social media, sharing reviews is great, but showing up online, showing your team, showing people what you do, that's important. And, I've heard a lot of service providers say, well, Emily, no one goes on Instagram and wants to watch videos of unplumbing toilets, right? Or things like that. But the reality is, if I'm going to have a service provider come to my home, I want to feel comfortable, confident. I want to have trust in who that person is. And if that company has an online social media presence where they show their technicians or they give examples of what it's going to look like when a technician is in your home, that is valuable content.
Yeah.
And that humanizes your brand. And it also makes people remember you and want to call you for jobs in the future. So showing up online is a way to show who you are as a business so that customers hire you the first time and think of you the next time as well.
It's not the technical thing like the toilet or the dental appointment or how they filled my teeth. It's every review is like it's like a home makeover show. Like, you ever watch the home makeover shows? Like, it starts out with the poor family who's got problems in their family and they got a challenge with their kids, and then on top of that, my house is falling apart. And then they come and do the makeover in about a week, and next everybody's like, "Oh my god, I feel so good. My life has changed." It's about the emotional experience that people get. So you're right. I always tell contractors this: stop focusing on the toilet, because people are more important than things. So the story about tell us about what it was like when you went through that problem, Mary. Yeah, that was terrible. I got here, my kids, my son's got this issue with his breathing difficulties right now, and asthma, and then on top of it, we couldn't get the air conditioning to work. But then you guys showed up, and I said, "Could you say those words exactly? That's so nice." If you can get the thing into be like every review to be sort of like the home makeover type of thing, like here's the thing that I was going through, and here's what happened when I found out what going, and then here's what you guys did. To me, that's the thing that I think that we're trying to get that emotional impact that the service provides. the technical, the toilet will be forgotten and the air conditioning will be forgotten for years. So, real quick, this has got a couple more things, if you don't mind sticking with me here. One of them is with all this AI and things like that, there's a lot of hidden dangers, I think, of what can generate reviews. So, what do you see in the future for the review type businesses, considering there's so many things that put words into people's mouth and things like that that we have to be aware of, and it could be dangerous actually for a contractor. Tell us about what the future beholds and what do contractors have to look out for before they start jumping into something that could be getting them in trouble with the reviews. What do you think there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest thing with Yelp in particular is we have a lot of checks and balances in place, both with our automated system, but also our human system. And we're constantly trying to make sure that the review content on our site is human generated, is authentic, is reliable. And we have new terms of service and content guidelines that have popped up over the past few years that prevent consumers from using AI to generate their reviews. So we don't want, ChatGPT writing people's reviews. We want these real people sharing their experiences. At the same time, we have built-in technology to our platform that helps consumers write great reviews. So if you're a review writer on Yelp, you might have seen that as you start to type, it'll tell you things you might want to think about including, like if it's for a restaurant, have you talked about ambiance or price? So AI can be really great and helpful, but the human is the most important. And I think on the business owner side, that's true as well. AI can be extremely helpful with things like helping you craft a response to a review, or maybe even coming up with a social media strategy for what you would talk about online as a home pro or a service provider.
Right.
Thing about using it though is it can never be the end result, in my opinion.
Hmm.
We're using ChatGPT to respond to a review. We're still going to modify that response and make it sound human and make it sound like us. And so you want to be aware of that. You want to be mindful as you're navigating online in general that AI it's here, right? And it could be curating content across the internet.
Yeah.
But if you as a business owner can leverage it as a tool that helps you and still put that human touch on it, I think it can be really powerful and beneficial.
Yeah, I think I use it sometimes as a way to kind of get me started on a format, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I need to do because I'm like, where do I start with this thing? Okay, you get writer's block, like, what do I say? But sometimes it's helpful to kind of push people, like you said, the ambiance or how is the service? With the provide, that kind of stuff. Did you get seated right away? Those are the kinds of things that kind of inspire the categories in a way that you could, look at. And I think that's a great way of putting it, to kind of prompt people instead of prompting ChatGPT. Let's prompt the person to say what we like them to say. I'm going to end this with I didn't cover this with you, but you do your podcast, and I've heard it, and I can't stop listening to it. Honestly, I highly recommend that you can get the soundbite if you want to and use it if you want to. Joe Crisara of Service MVP highly recommends Emily Waskovic and her podcast for Yelp. She does an amazing job to help small businesses. I highly recommend every small business go ahead and listen to that and listen and learn because you're going to learn a lot there. Can you share a story from either your podcast or something about something where it did make a big difference in a business owner's life? Let's end with a positive story here about a customer you may have known that Yelp and what you do there with the reviews have really helped their small business.
Yeah. Insectech Pest Control is one of my favorite businesses. They've been on the podcast before. It's a husband and wife business, and they had their own negative experience with infestation at their own home years ago. And they thought we could do this better. We could provide a more human and empathetic accompaniment to the service that's provided, right? Taking care of the problem itself. And so they started their business. They're really built on systems and communication. And the reviewer that I had on my show to share the experience with Insectech actually lost her dad and was helping her mom with all of the new taking care of the home that comes with a significant loss like that. And As they were dealing with some of the things that were easy to handle, up came hard to handle, and it was the bugs. They didn't realize their dad had been treating on his own and doing that care multiple times a year around the home. And so they had to find someone to help. And when they found Insectech, not only did Insectech start by sending a picture of who was coming to the home, a little bio, they really felt her comfort level and need for this help. And when they showed up, they not only said that they were sorry for her loss because they knew about that through the intake form that she had completed, but they walked her through what they were going to do, and they provided two options at the end. This is a service we can continue and maintain for you. We have, a program where you can stay on as a client and get service, or we can send a technician and teach you all how to maintain this if you want to continue doing it like your dad was doing on his own. And I thought that was such a unique story, but for Insectech, it's how they do business. And, they told me that some business owners might look at that example and think, well, you just sold yourself out of continual revenue potentially. Like, why would you tell them they could do this themselves when you want to keep providing that service? But ultimately, this woman who hired them wasn't going to keep doing it herself. And they built trust, they built connection, and now she will turn to no one else. And she won't let friends or family or colleagues use anyone else either. And so I think the story there is they have the systems in place, they do the proactive communication and the follow-up communication, but they let their techs be human, and they don't make their techs just focus on long-term revenue, sell, sell, sell. They want to create comfort, they want to provide information and knowledge, and they want this consumer to think of them in the long term, not just for this one job that they were called out to quote or to be hired for. So I think Yelp provides any business who's already doing those things in person an opportunity for that to be amplified. And for those people that maybe that's not your strong suit, I think Yelp is a great way to motivate you to think more about how you connect with customers, what that human relationship looks like, and how you can encourage people to want to go online and talk about your business.
Man, Emily, let me just say something. During this entire interview, every time you're talking, I'm hearing I'm flashing service MVP trademarks and Uncle Joeisms that that's what I call helping clients choose the solution that's right for them, even if it's not you, I always say. So that's something I always tell people. Hey, your job is to help people, show them the problems, show them the solutions, and choose the one that's right for you. And I tell people, even if it's not me, I'll still be your friend if you choose something else. I just want you to know what we have available. I think that gives everybody credibility. And what a great way to end this interview. Emily Waskovic, who is the business expert at Yelp. Emily, what is there any action you'd like contractors to take? I mean, if you are a Yelp contractor and like to be on our podcast, she probably would love to interview you. I'm pretty sure of that, right? Number one, number one. So if you're a Yelp believer and yeah, I'm preaching to the choir here, then definitely she'd like to hear from you, and you could find her email online, and she'd be happy to do that. Emily, is there anything else you'd like people to do for hear from this podcast?
Yeah. Business.yelp.com is where they can go to claim their page, add their page, or just log in to respond to reviews or update their information. So that's the most important place. Business.yelp.com. And then the show is called Behind the Review. So if you go to YouTube, if you go to any podcast listening platform, you'll be able to find the show. And my email is also very easy to find, but I'll share it here as well in case anyone wants to connect. It's Emily RW at Yelp.com. So EMILY R as in Rose, W as in Wash at Yelp.com.
Great. Well, Emily, again, thank you for being here. I tell you what, this is one of the easiest interviews I ever did, and I probably could go on for like 8 hours today because it's so much fun. Thank you for being a great guest, and thanks for helping business owners. You have a big heart, and I know that you can't do this kind of a job unless you do care for the people who provide service for our nation and our world. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks for having me on, Joe, and I'm so excited for you to come on Behind the Review. We'll have everyone tune into that as well, so I'm looking forward to it.
Can't wait to get an episode because I was already chomping at the bit. Had to keep reminding myself this is your interview. So
I'm going to give you all the airtime. I can't wait for you to be the subject on my show.
well, I can't wait either. Thanks a lot, Emily. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
You too.